A lot of people think that oil and gas is a huge part of Alaska's long-term future. And you'd be forgiven for thinking that because it's all in the political discourse and the news nowadays about reopening gas fields and oil fields in Alaska and allowing more exploration of oil. But in fact, nothing could be further from the truth. Historically, of course, lots of oil has come out of Alaska. It is the number one part of the economy now, and it's still very dominant. But it's declining. And that's the really interesting thing. It's been declining since the late 80s, production here. There's a bunch of reasons for that. Now, the first thing to keep in mind is that oil prices have been declining recently, and oil demand is about to decline. So if we look at the future, it's only going in one direction. Last year, 92.5% of all the capacity additions to all the electricity grids around the world were renewables. People aren't investing in the old fossil fuel style stuff at all. Now in transportation, we're about to hit a very similar curve. Things are sweeping forward in electric vehicles in particular. It'll take a lot longer in shipping and long-haul aviation, but we're about to see a momentous shift in what's going on in oil demand in the transportation sector. So, depending on who you look at, I mean, personally, I think peak oil demand is certainly coming in the next 5 to 7 years. So let's say early 2030s. So demand's falling off, but at the same time, we're in a period of overproduction of oil. Lots of governments around the world, lots of companies have got into this mindset of, hey, there's a new opportunity, particularly in the government in this country, in the United States, an opportunity to drill more, produce more, and export more. But if everybody's exporting more, then it doesn't quite work, does it? So in fact, we have overproduction. And the only thing that can come out of that is, of course, that prices stay low, especially as demand falls away. Now, that's the oil industry, but the future of Alaska is very rich indeed because it has so many other wonderful resources, and especially ecological resources. If we look at this state, first of all, it's monumentally huge. It makes up 20%, or 19% to be precise, of the land mass, the total land mass of the United States. And 2/3 of federal national parks, or that land area, right here in Alaska. And of course, all the biodiversity is in there. We've got different habitats. We've got the Arctic tundra. We've got forests, different types of forests. We've got marine ecosystems galore, more coastline in Alaska than the rest of the United States combined. So much going on ecologically. So what's going to happen? We're going to have a shift in industries. We look at the other industries here. Fisheries I'm very interested in. That's why I'm up here, in fact, exploring ocean ecosystems and fisheries and the future of those and how we do that more sustainably. Clearly, tourism is going to go up and become a more dominant part of the economy. There are other sources, including forestry, other types of mining, that sort of thing. But the future is not oil and gas. And that's really good news, isn't it? The other thing to keep in mind is they've done something really good here with something called the Alaska Permanent Fund. So they've been setting aside some of those oil revenues for citizens of Alaska. Now that fund pays out annuities to every single resident of this state every year. So long as you've resided here for a year and you meet basic qualifications, you get some money put into your bank account. That varies by year. Sometimes it's about $1,500. I think recently it got up to $3,000. And in a sense, it's a kind of universal basic income. And it's very popular and also speaks to sustainability. That's been coming out of oil, but it's also in an enormous fund. So the capital value of that fund now is $81 billion. Lots of other countries could learn from this. So when we look at the transitional challenges as it comes off oil in this economy, the 740,000 residents of Alaska, there's not that many, 740,000, of which about 300,000 reside over here in Anchorage, have $81 billion to spend how they wish. It's a soft landing, if you like. So there's lots to invest. Now that money is invested, so it's returning, I think, 4.5% per year, something around that. And it's going to keep doing that for some time. But they could spend some of that capital in other ways to grow other industries. So a complex transition, but the future here is definitely not oil and gas. And I think that's the main message. You know, we've been getting a different, very negative message lately. But no matter how you look at it, there is no way from a government policy point of view or any other point of view you could force the future of Alaska to be oil and gas. It's an expensive source relative to other sources in other parts of the world. Demand is diminishing and will diminish. Prices are not going to go up anytime soon to make it more economically viable to source it here. It's coming from other parts of the US. And so when we look at the environment here, the 21,000 odd species documented, I think 1,000 vertebrates alone, it has a much more positive future than you think.